All right, today I just want to give you a quick overview of what web pages look like behind the scenes. Just give you an overview of how they're built, and that I'm hoping will take no more than about a half an hour. And then I'm going to give you this little jigsaw exercise, as I call it, where I put you into teams of 3, and then you do your work, split up the work that needs to be done. You do it. The experts get together, compare notes, kind of like we did today in iOS class for those of you that were there. And then you go back to your home groups, and you can see your home groups right now because there's a convenient number of 9 of you in here, so that's a good size. Right? Those are your home groups. You'll divide up the work. Experts will get together. You'll get an idea what I'm talking about when we do it. And then you go back to your home group, and it is your job to teach the rest of the group what you have learned as the expert. Put it all together. We should have a nice pile of HTML notes. So much for my even numbered groups. All right, if you worked on your portable apps before today, if you didn't, it wasn't due till Monday. It's okay, you just kind of have to sit back and watch this. But if you did work on your portable apps, you should be able to open up the folder and see the Start EXE button that launches portable apps. And we're going to use Notepad++ to develop our web pages. At least I am. A couple of you already asked, can I use my favorite text editor? Fine. There may be some features that are missing. You may have some features that are better than mine. If you think you do, I'd love to see your text editor. This one is just simple, comes with portable apps, easy to use. So I'm going to launch that. Mine's running on a flash drive. One of the nice things I like about Notepad++ is if you have a file open, when you close it, it's still there when you come back. So that's convenient. And you can have multiple tabs across the top. Another reason I like Notepad++ is because it has multiple tabs. A lot of the other text editors have tabs down the side, and I'm just not used to that. The ones for the Mac, every single one I've found so far has the document tabs down the side instead of across the top. So I'm using Notepad++. As far as I know, Notepad++ is only a Windows product. Portable Apps is only a Windows product. That's why I'm running them in a virtual machine right now. So this is Notepad++, nothing too exciting, but let me also real quick go back to my Start menu and launch XAMPP. And by the way, you can launch XAMPP from here, or you can go into the folder and launch it from the one labeled Control Panel here. All that XAMPP launcher thingy does is connects to this, as far as I know. Now, Reen and Justin, you guys have been having trouble. Others are probably going to have a little issue. If the launcher in portable apps doesn't work, try coming in here and see if this does it. Maybe the portable app, it just occurred to me that maybe the portable apps launcher is having issues, but it may not be. If everything works well, this is what you should see when you click on it. This window, and then you click Start and Start. And if everything goes well, the MySQL turns green, and after a little while, the Apache will turn green. And a couple of you have been having trouble with this.
Reinstalling and fixed it.
Pardon me?
Reinstalling and fixed it.
Reinstalling it on the virtual machine in here, fixed it. Now the next test is when he takes it home, does it run there? Because he did his at home, and it worked. Then he brought it here, and it didn't work. Well, the purpose of portable apps is to be portable, so you can take them back and forth. Okay, so I'm hoping when he goes home, it works. So Justin, maybe if you can't get yours isn't even working on your machine. That concerns me.
It's not working on that one.
It's not working on that one either. So maybe reinstalling XAMPP, you remove the XAMPP folder. This is just, this folder is not linked to anything. Okay, so you can delete the XAMPP folder and then reinstall it and see if that helps any by doing it on our portable machines, on our virtual machines, and you can do that later. But this is what it should look like when you're testing it. So far, everybody's having, not everybody, the people who are having trouble with Apache. The good news is this semester we don't need Apache. Apache is used to run a web server to test your PHP pages, which we're not writing this semester. Pure HTML, even with JavaScript, will run without Apache. We can test it, verify that it works, etc. You will, however, need the MySQL for the RDD class tomorrow. Once you're done with these, you have to remember to stop them. If you don't do that, you won't be able to eject your drive properly because they're technically still running. If you wish, you can minimize this while they're running. But what I like to do is close it and just get it out of the way. And I have a little orange icon down here that reminds me that it's still running. This orange icon sometimes tends to disappear, so then you come in here and you customize and you find the little XAMPP icon, come on, there it is, and you tell it to show the icon and notifications and it'll never go away. And you know that XAMPP is still running. Okay. So if XAMPP, then I just double click this and it pops back up again. And that way it's not taking up any room in my tray. If you minimize it, it takes up room in your tray. If you quit, it quits this control panel but leaves completely, and there's no remnants of it anywhere, but it leaves these services running and you don't want that. After you've stopped these and you're done for the day, then you can quit the control panel. So remember to quit those if you launch them. I don't need them today, so I'm not going to use them. I just wanted to show you what the end result of your lab should look like. Going back to Notepad++. In my version of Notepad++, I have some macros defined. I hope they're here. Yep. And I also have some run commands defined. A number of years ago, I dug into the Notepad documentation and learned how to write macros and learned how to add menu items to this. And there is a Notepad customization file floating around somewhere. That's on my list of things to do, is to find it for you and share it with you. It used to be on the iDrive, might still be there, but that doesn't do us any good in here, so I need to make sure that I get it onto SkyDrive. It's probably, or OneDrive. It's probably already there, but I just need to double check. What the macro here allows me to do is I created a macro to create a brand new HTML page, so that when I start a new page, and Volker's making us type these manually, dang it. When I start a new page, I don't have to think about all those things. It puts in this Doctype HTML, it puts in and it's got a mistake in it that I've got to fix, so another reason to go up and look at it. I like to indent, where's my H, there it is. Let me line these up right. Are those big enough to see, Ring? Okay, guess I should be maybe asking somebody else, but notice this is all black, that's not normal, but it's also an undefined file. So I'm going to save this on my desktop so I can find it. You can save it anywhere you like a shared drive, a Google Drive, wherever you want to do it, or put it on your flash drive because your flash drive is probably in running portable apps anyways. I'm going to put it on my desktop just so I can find it, and I'll call it sample.html. Another good name to call this is the default name for a website. Remember I showed you that if somebody types in their web address without a page name, you automatically get which page?
Index.
Index.html or .htm. We should be using 4-character extensions now. The 3-character extension is left over from Windows 2000 or whatever it was when we couldn't have unlimited extensions. It's left over from those days. Today, a 4-character extension for HTML is very common. So if you wanted this to run automatically, you'd call it index. It's just a sample, so I'll call it sample. And now that I've saved it, Notepad says, oh, it's an HTML document, and adds syntax highlighting. So that's pretty handy. But you have to save it first if you're using my macro once I fix it. HTML, and these are in my notes, by the way, you can bring those up, and we're going to be talking about this stuff here. Okay. I'm just going to give you the overviews. I'm not going to get into it too deep. You may use my notes as a reference when you're doing your research, but I'm going to ask you to find at least 1 or 2 other sources for your information because I'm hoping you find something I don't know. And that's not necessarily the goal, but if that happens, that's great. Okay, so let's take a look. HTML starts off with a doctype HTML command. And notice there's angle brackets around those. HTML is created using what are called tags. Here's another tag. Here's another tag. The tags start with a greater or less than sign and end with a greater than sign. Always. Every tag ends with that information, with those angle brackets. The tags mean something special to your browser. When the browser sees this HTML tag, it says, oh, there's the beginning of the HTML. When it sees the end, and where's my head tag? Ugh. Something's wrong with my macro. I got to fix it. This is a 2-sided tag. Here's the beginning of the head section. Here's the end of the head section. It's a 2-sided tag. All end tags have a slash. The end tag name is exactly the same as the beginning tag name, except with the slash. If I was typing these manually, I would type the head tag, go to the next line, type the end head tag, so I don't never forget it, and then go in between. Many browsers are very, very forgiving if you forget end tags, if you forget slashes. Sometimes they'll even handle that if you forget the slashes. Some are very forgiving. Firefox, pretty forgiving. Internet Explorer and Google Chrome, not very forgiving. They just kind of choke on it. Sometimes your Firefox pages will work and they shouldn't. How do you know? Later on, I will show you, I'll actually show you right now, after I'm done with this, how to validate these things. The validator will tell you you're missing an end tag for this, or you've got a rogue end tag that doesn't have a beginning tag, or any of those things the validator will find. So here's my head tag. What the head tag has in it is some general overview stuff and meta tags. This meta tag says I'm using an 8-bit character set, so I'm not using any Unicode stuff in here. In most of our pages, that'll be fine. It's good to have an author tag, so if somebody looks at this, they can find out who you are, though some people feel uncomfortable posting things on the web and saying this is who built it. Of course, if your name is John Smith and that's all you got in here, probably ain't going to help much anyways. I'm going to require you to put them in there in our standard only so when you submit them, I can see that you did it. Every page should have a description. Should. Pages will work without them. When we get to PHP, we'll stop putting the descriptions in because the descriptions are actually part of a common file, the header file that we're going to create, and it's hard to use that same file over and over and over again. You can put any text in here you want to. You can list keywords. In the past, this is kind of old, in the past, the search engines like Google and Bing and whatever else would use these keywords to help index your page. Today, that's boring. They index every bloomin' word on your page, every piece of text on your page, everything they can find on your page to help people find your page, and they don't just look in the keywords. So it's good to put a few keywords in there. I'm going to ask you to do a few for the first couple of units. After that, I'm not going to be terribly concerned again because they're not as important as they used to be. What is important, though, is the title. The title is what appears in the title bar when you're browsing that page. Okay, so when you're browsing this page, this title appears in the title bar. So I'm going to leave that the way it is. That's just to help you remember. Then comes my end tag, and then comes the meat of your page. The meat of your page comes between two body tags. It's a begin body, end body tag. And you put everything else in between there, except the JavaScript later. But everything else goes in between there. And you're going to investigate all the different kinds of tags, many of the different kinds of tags that you can put in there. For right now, I'm going to put in a simple P tag, and that's a two-sided tag. And how do you know which ones are one and two-sided? You look in my notes, you look in your notes, you look in the references, and after a while, you know. This is a one-sided tag. There's no end to it. Some of the old HTML, if you're looking at HTML or XHTML, you'll see a slash there saying this is a one-sided tag. That's what XML used as a one-sided tag. HTML accepts it, HTML5, accepts that slash. This is not an error. But I'm going to ask you to not include slashes because that's the current technique. It's more modern. The current technique is one-sided tags do not have slashes at the end. Okay. There's a break tag that you'll investigate that's a one-sided tag. You'll see thousands of examples on the web with break slash. Not necessary anymore. Please don't do it. Okay, so I put two paragraph tags here, and in between I can put whatever I want. This is a sample web page. And then I save this. But how do I test it? A couple of ways you can test it. If And I'm going to show you the easy way, and then you won't be able to use it yet because you haven't imported my Notepad++ updates yet. Right? If you have the Notepad++ updates, you can launch this in Firefox, or if you can stick Chrome or Opera Portable, assuming you have those installed on your Portable Apps drive. They take a little longer, or you can just simply launch them in the actual browsers that are installed in your virtual machine, but again, they have to be installed. Safari's not going to be installed here because I haven't installed it. There is a Windows version of Safari. I recommend testing everything in Firefox. Firefox, if it works in Firefox, it probably works in Chrome, probably works in Opera. It looks exactly the same. Once you're finished, my advice is then go take a look at IE. In this class, you're not going to be doing too much that works in Firefox that doesn't work in IE 10. I think in the virtual machines we might even have 11 installed already. So I'm just going to launch, let's use IE, find out which version. If you don't have that available, then you simply go find the file, here it is, and double click it. Unfortunately, if you double click it, in this case it uses your default browser, which in my case in the virtual machine is Firefox. If you want to launch it in Explorer, then launch Explorer and drag this into it. And there's my page. Notice you don't see all of the head stuff, you don't see the paragraph tags, you don't see the body tags, you don't see any of that stuff. The browser's job is to look at the HTML, interpret it, and generate a page based on what's inside there. Most of those tags that we were looking at were simply group tags. This is where the body starts, and this is where the head is, and this is the end and the beginning of the HTML. Okay. Notice on my tab here, it says insert your page. Oh, okay. That's where that goes. Okay. It shows up in the tab that you're viewing in, and if I double click this, it'll open in Firefox and you'll see the same effect. Insert your page title there. You don't leave that there. That's bad news. Change page title, and when you're copying from the next project to the next project, change your page title so that it matches the project. I tend to read those, and you know how anal I can be. So change those. So let's go change it. Oops. Way too many windows going here. To change it, I go back to Notepad and change it. You can put your name in there if you wish. Save it. And if you wish, what I've had students in the past do is hit run and they'd run another. But if you hit run again, it opens another copy of Firefox and another, and you've got, and after a while they had 10 of these things stacked on top of each other. And if you click on the wrong one, it comes to the front, it's out of date, and it doesn't look like your changes worked. So I don't, after I've started these things already, I don't run again. I take my Notepad program and I shrink it, and I have Firefox on one half of the screen and Notepad on the other half of the screen, and I just bounce back and forth. Or IE or whatever it is you want to use. This looks like IE 11, by the way. Let's just do a quick check. That's not going to tell me. Yep, IE 11. And now here, you refresh the page. My favorite key is the F5 key in a browser, refreshes the page in all of them, I think except Chrome.
Chrome it does.
It does. One of them doesn't work. I forget which one it is. There's the F5 key. Notice nothing else has changed, but that has changed. If I change this and add some more stuff, don't forget to save. What I like about Notepad++ is my little save icons are blue. That tells me there's changes. As soon as I save, they go gray. And so when you say, Volker, I can't get this HTML to work, the first thing I'll do without getting up is say, did you save? And you'll go, yes. I'll say, make sure. And you go, yes. And I'll walk over there and I'll see a blue save icon and I'll say, save it first. Okay. Nice visual clue that you haven't saved. Then come back and refresh with the F5 key, not the F4 key, and it changes your page. One thing that drives some people crazy is when they do this. Save it, refresh, and we get lots of lines. Maybe I have to hit it harder. No. HTML by default in all browsers removes excess white space. if you put 5 spaces between the word is and fun, or 15 spaces, no difference. Excess white space, all browsers remove it. You'll learn how to add the extra space if you really want it, but what you really want to do is indent or do some other thing. Usually that's what you want to do is indent, and there are commands for that. So that takes a little getting used to in HTML. Is that any white space you put in is ignored unless you put a special tag in that says don't ignore my white space, and I hardly ever use it. So that's kind of the basics of HTML. There's always a doc type at the top because there are other doc types like XML. So the browser wants to know what kind of a document is this, and we will always have this doc type at the top. If you see other ones, they're old, it's not HTML5. This is the HTML5 doc type. There's always a beginning and end HTML tag. This is where they're all very forgiving. If you don't have an end HTML tag, they just stop and it works fine. Then you turn it into me and I go, no. There's a head. Usually it must have a title in my case. The rest of the UTF-8 will not validate if that's not there. Then a body tag where everything else appears. Now I want to validate this. I hope my Firefox has got my links to it. I have the shortcut. A couple of you are telling me there's older ones. My notes mention it. And if you want to copy it, I think you can just go to validatorw3.org. And then you have to click a couple more times. But this is the page that I want to go to. Notice it's already selected validate by file upload. You can validate an existing on the web page, or you can directly input code and find out if it's valid. Normally, I already have a file full of stuff. You browse, go find your file, and check it. If it's green, you're good to go. You can submit it to void if there's a warning. Boker doesn't like warnings. This warning you can't get rid of. It's basically saying this conformance checker is checking an HTML standard that has not been approved 100% yet, so maybe in the future you won't be valid. Best I can do. So that one you can leave. You're using experimental feature. When you send your pages to me, I will be running them every single page that you send me through here unless I get tired. And you won't know which ones I'm sending through then. Okay, so you should be validating them all. And it shouldn't be the last thing you do. It might be something you do after every 20, 30, 40 lines. So you leave this open. My advice is you then go backwards. It still has your file name in there and you can check it again. Let's see what it looks like with an error. What does my page look like with that error? Did I close Explorer? Yeah. Let's open up my page again. I can't just type sample in there because who knows where it's looking, so I'm going to drag it in there. Looks the same. Okay. But now when I run it through the validator, if you go backwards, I think that's the easiest way. There is a feature on this page where you can browse, but then you have to go looking for it again. It's not terribly hard, but back and check it again. And now, really? Did I save it? I did. Let's go browse again. It should be giving me an error here. Wow. I'm surprised. Let's try this. Got them backwards. Trying to make an error that it'll recognize here. There we go. Okay. Why it let the other ones go, I don't know. Then you have to go through here, and here's your error. It says line 13, column number 5, right there. No P element in scope, but a PN tag seen. I hear Justin is looking at it and go, can't these people speak English? What? Well, with a little bit of HTML experience, you'll see P tag with no end P tag, or end P tag with no beginning P tag, or whatever you've got. I'm surprised it didn't yell at me for having my 2 paragraph tags with no ends. The ends are required, supposedly. Okay. So that's how you validate these pages. Again, validator w3.org is a good place to start, and then all you have to do is click the tab that says import my file and validate them. So that's the basics. There's no loops. There's no for if statements. There's no nothing. It's just, here's the text I want you to display, and in the next unit, unit 3, you'll learn how to style that text. What if I want this bigger? What if I want this red? What if I want it in a different font? You can do that. What if I want to add a picture? You can do that. You've seen how everything that's possible on a web page. It's all done with HTML, without loops. Not in the HTML. If there's loops, it's on the server side, not on this side. All it is style tags and container tags. These are body tags and head tags are called containers. They're containers. They contain text. This is another container. It contains a paragraph, etc. And they just lay out a page. And you learn to manipulate the containers to create pages that look exactly the way you want, and then still look good when they shrink the window or look at it on a phone if you do it right. If you've ever looked at my web page on the phone, this tucks up underneath after a while because I got tired of scrolling. So when I shrink the window down, notice it tucks underneath so that you can scroll instead of having to scroll sideways. Why doesn't it indent like that? Too hard, didn't bother. But how'd you do that? HTML, you just got to know the right tags and the right style/formatting to make that happen. Let me go back to those notes again real quick just to make sure there wasn't anything in there I missed. There's a lot more in my notes. You may use my notes as one of your references, but not the only reference when you're doing the assignment that I'm going to give you here in just a second. Paragraph tags, opening tag, end tag, one element, that's a paragraph, or it's an image, or it's a horizontal rule, or ordered list. There's all kinds of tags that you're going to learn about here in just a second. Right? Actually, you're going to do the research. Those are all elements of a web page, lots and lots of them. Some of them are one-sided, some of them are two-sided. If it's two-sided, they have a slash in the closing tag. Here's a one-sided tag. This is the old way. Don't do that. Just talked about the spacing. Removes the extra spacing. If you want to add blank space, you'll learn how a little bit later. Here's the skeleton. This is basic. That's what my macro is supposed to generate, but my macro is missing some pieces. So while you're working away feverishly, I'll try to fix my macro. But that's the basic starting point for an HTML page. And then you start filling stuff in and replacing my placeholder. And don't put my name in your pages, please. Each HTML tag, okay, UTF-8, the body tag, comments. I'm not going to talk about it. It's your job. Okay. So that's kind of the overview that I wanted to give you just to introduce you to HTML. And now what you're really going to be learning about more than anything else is what do I put in the body? What kind of things can I put in the body tag to make my pages start appearing in different ways? Or another way to look at it is if I put this tag into my body, what happens? Now remember in Unit 3, the next unit, going to sneak up on us probably next week, we're going to be talking about CSS. CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheets. They're for styling your text. So in this unit, your text is all going to be black. I'd really rather not see, and if you want to include them, I suppose you can, some examples that include styles. You can experiment with them, but remember that's what we're doing in the next unit. So if you go to Google something and you find an answer, you find a nice resource, it's got all this styling stuff to make it look pretty. You don't have to document that just yet, because we're going to be doing that in the next chapter. For right now, I just want you to show what the tags themselves do when they're unstyled. It's really what I'm looking for. And then in the next unit, you'll learn how to style things. But if you want to add things to your notes about styles, you can. But when you experts get together, you decide whether you want to put that in the notes now or save it for later. Questions?
With your header, does it matter if, like the capitalization, like you've got author, description, keywords, if you capitalize those, does that?
Okay, good question. Notice that all of my tags are lowercase. The HTML5 guidelines recommend lowercase. Most of the browsers, I think all of the browsers, are case insensitive when it comes to tags. I believe this UTF-8, because it's in quotes, has to be about right. Keywords and description, maybe. I've never tried it. I just do everything lowercase. Why hit the shift key if you don't need to? Okay, but all tags, there are no uppercase tags that I've seen. Can't think of any.
And you said they ignore white space, so you could tab your contents over so they line.
You can line this stuff up, yep, if you want to be extra anal, knock stuff out. Okay. But spacing is important. Notice I'm using indentation to show the beginning and the end of the head. I didn't do it for HTML. If that bothers you, go ahead and indent them again, but you'll find before too long, you're indented 5-6 levels. And I know there's a beginning and an end, and so these I just leave at level 1, and same thing with the head and the body tag. But I use indentation to show ownership. Okay. This end paragraph tag, if I was doing this for real, I would probably put that on a line by itself and indent this with a tab. How's that going to change my page? Not at all, but it's going to make my HTML more editable. The same reasons we did it in C#, because it makes your code more easier to read. I spent a lot of time this summer updating some of my web pages that were created with Expression Web because it indents in the most funky way that I just couldn't deal with it. So I fixed all the indentations so that I see the HTML the way I expect to see it. It makes it easier to find what I'm looking for. Good question. Others?
Are there other character sets besides UTF-8?
Not that I've, yes, but not that I've used. To simplify, again, if you wanted to put dog faces and puppies like we did in iOS this morning, in here you can, if you're creating an international website, you might need some Unicode, Unicode. I got unicorn, granddaughter stuck in my head here. Unicorn characters in your web pages, you can put those in there. But I think you have to change this to a 16. Do a little research if that's what you wish. And some of you are going to be doing research on the character sets. No, you're not, but you could. And find out what some of the other alternatives are and how they affect the page. Everything I've seen says this is a good place to start.